What's up, everybody? James Keller here, and as you know, every week we're releasing videos, and due to the coronavirus and the epidemic and the closing of all businesses, we've decided to just take a break this week, and possibly in the next few weeks we'll be doing other things. But see, I promised an interview every week, so I'm going to give you what you want. And let me just introduce 14 years ago, he started the band Dissension. Through 14 years, he did a lot of things we're going to talk about. And currently, he is the lead singer and frontman for the band Keller. James Keller, welcome to the show, and thank you very much for giving me your time.
Yeah, man.
It's good to be here. I'm glad we can take the time to sit down and have a conversation. We don't talk enough. But yeah, it's real good to be here. I want to thank you very much for including me in your interviews. I didn't think this was ever going to be possible. Though a lot of people think this goes on a lot.
Yeah, don't get me started on that.
We can get into that more as the process goes on with the interview. But I'd like you to tell everybody about how it all started for you. Like, a lot of people know you as a social media guy, and that's not how it all started out. So you had a journey. So it was Pearl Jam that started your love for the rock music. Michael Jackson started your love for the music in general, the performance aspect of it. So that's pretty cool. Now let's get to what started the whole band thing for you, the dissension, if you will. I know you've told the story, a few times in your life, but I don't think that people quite grasp the weight of it, the gravity of it, if you will. How was it that it all started for you? Like, when did it click to you that this had to happen? Wow, well, it's actually an emotional ride there, man. It all started on, I guess you could say, February 22nd, 1997. My mother had been killed in a car accident. There's a lot of backstory to that, and I'd rather not get into, but when she passed away, at the time, I didn't have a relationship with anybody in my family but my mother. So when she passed away, I lost everything. I mean, when I say everything, I mean, I didn't even know who I was when I looked in the mirror. And it was, I think, 2 days after she had passed away, or 3 days after she passed away, that her body had been brought back up here to West Virginia from North Carolina. They had a funeral service down there for her, and she got brought back up here, and it come time for the actual showing. And when the night was all over, the next day we were to bury her, and I had asked everybody to, it was time to go home, and I asked everybody, I need everybody to leave for a minute. I need time with my mom. And because it was all that time with just me and her, so whenever everybody left, I pulled up a chair to her coffin, and I took her hands into mine, and that's a feeling that I can never, it's etched into my memory. I can never forget it. But I remember pulling the chair up to the casket, taking her hands in mine, and just overwhelmingly crying. And I remember saying out loud, it was like a plea, if you will. I said, with you not here anymore, I'm alone. There's nobody else that understands me. There's nobody else that even remotely cares about me. I don't think I can do this on my own. I don't think that I can make it through this life without somebody to understand me. And it was alone, my life. And you gotta understand, my life was alone, even with my mom, because there was I don't want to get into that, but there was a lot of problems with not me and my mother, but me and the people that my mother associated with. So, I did a lot of running around. One minute I'd be in North Carolina, then I'd be in West Virginia, then I'd be in Ohio, then I'd be in Pennsylvania, then I'd be in New York. I mean, I just literally just went all around wherever I could go, and so I was a loner for sure. And when back in school, my mother would, move me around so much that I was like a professional new kid, and you would think that I was in the military as much as I went around. I mean, I went to a lot of schools in my day, so I mean, looking back, constantly moving around and constantly meeting new people, it actually benefited me in the long run. But at the time, I thought, man, this is really disparaging. This is really damaging to my life because I couldn't connect with nobody, But anyhow, she passed away, and I pled with her to please send somebody into my life. I said, I really need to, I need to connect with somebody. I need somebody to let me know that they understand me. I need somebody to reach into my life and to tell me it's going to be okay, And so, a couple months went by and I get this tape in the mail, and it's this cassette tape. It doesn't have no wording on it. It doesn't have nothing. There was just a letter in it, and it came from a friend of my mom's that lived in Orlando, Florida, and he had bootlegged this copy of this band down in Florida, and he sent me the album, but on this cassette tape, and anything the letter said wasn't who they were, wasn't the name of the songs, wasn't the lyrics or anything like that. All the letter said was, "I believe your mom needs you to listen to this." And so I popped that cassette tape in and I listened to it, and man, something in me changed, you know what I mean? But I still wasn't out of that depression, out of that hole, you know what I mean? And then I remember this was like in April or May that I received this tape. So I'm jamming this band, and man, and like it's the only thing I'm listening to. It just something about it just really spoke to me. And I remember in October of '97, I'm driving down the road on Penn Avenue in Weirton, and I was headed home, and I'm listening to 105.9 The X, and all of a sudden, one of the songs from this cassette tape came over the radio. But I missed who it was. They said it, I know they said it, but I wasn't paying attention to the guy talking. I was just driving, So after the song got done, I remember going to the payphone up the street from my house because I couldn't wait, and I called 105.9 The X, and thank God they answered. And I said, hey, I need to know that band you just played, and what the name of the album is, where can I get it, so forth. And he's like, I don't, which one you talking about? I was like, you just played it a few moments ago. And he goes, those rock jocks are, man. He's like, well, I played a lot of songs, and so I'm like, all right, so it's talking about creating my own prison. It's talking about, court is in session, the verdict is in, no appeal on it. And he's like, the words? I just played it for the first time. I was like, I need to know who that is. And he's like, yeah, it's a band out of Florida called Creed. So I went to the mall and I found the album and I bought it. And that's the only thing I would listen to. Well, it was enough to kind of like keep me going for a while, but it come time for that anniversary date, you know what I mean? And it was the first year, and I don't think I've ever dove into so much of drugs and alcohol as I did that first year. It was like I was chasing the reaper, and I was done, man. I didn't want to do this life anymore, and I had it in my head that I was going to commit suicide, and a very dark time, very dark night. But in that darkness, there was a silver lining, because as the pills that I was taking was kicking in, and as I can slowly feel my life fading away at the moment, I heard I see your soul, it's kind of gray. You see my heart, you look away. You see my wrist, I know your pain. I know your purpose on your plane. So don't say your last prayer because you'll never find what's this life for. And this was before that song was even released, you know. But it just rang through my ears, you know what I mean? And so I got myself to the bathroom, I threw up, and I took the necessary precautions to get better. And turns out that this was like, you know, around the first week of February of '98, and my birthday is March 1st. And my mom had died on February 22nd, and my birthday is March 1st, and it's exactly 7 days, unless it's leap year, it's exactly 7 days from the moment she passed away to the moment of my birth. So, you know, that whole, every year I'm reminded of, at my birthday, that my mom's not here, you know. And we buried her 2 days before my 18th birthday. Before my 19th birthday. And so it was, you know, a real hard time for me. Well, so the person I was with at the time, they heard that Creed was coming to Pittsburgh, and I had no idea. I had not heard it, because once I got the album, I quit listening to the radio. That's all I listened to was the My Own Prison album. So she had gotten vouchers for 2 tickets to see Creed, and on my birthday on March 1st, 1998, she gave me the vouchers, and Creed was coming on my grandmother's birthday on March 5th. And so I was like, oh my God. So I called my grandmother, and I said, I can't come to the birthday, I'm sorry, I gotta go to this concert. She goes, you're gonna go to a concert? I was like, I got to, Grandma, this is the only way I'm gonna survive. I gotta go talk to this guy. And she said, okay. And you know, I went super early, and it's a tradition that I have with anytime I go see Creed or Scott. I go really early. It's nerve wracking to a lot of people, but you know, it's just something in my head, man. I always have to be there early. And we got to graffiti real early, and then on the way there, because they was playing at the graffiti club, and on the way there, it was said that they was going to be at the Music X in Weirton, which I'm not sure if it's still open, but it used to be a record store. So I walked to the Music X from the graffiti. It was quite a walk, but when I got there, it was freezing cold, and so we tried to stay inside as much as possible. And I remember the manager had walked up to me after a few hours and was like, you have to leave, you can't be here. And I'm like, I can't leave, Creed's gonna be right here. And he was like, sir, you gotta wait outside. I was like, it's sub-zeros outside, I'm not going outside, that's crazy. And he goes, you have to be a customer. And just as he said that, this little boy and his mom was walking towards me, and he was carrying a Walkman, and he asked her to buy a CD to go with his Walkman. And she says, I got some at home, not today. Next payday we'll get you a CD. And something clicked, man. Like my mother, every time I wanted something, she would like, you gotta wait till I get paid. You know, the same kind of conversation. So as soon as I seen that, I stopped him. And at first she was like, what are you doing? You know? And I was like, hold up. And I reached over and I grabbed the My Own Prison CD off the shelf, and I handed it to her. I reached in, got my t-shirt money and gave it to her. I said, I need the receipt. She goes, I can't let you do this. I said, you're gonna thank me later. He's gonna thank me later. It's a great CD. And so she went and bought the My Own Prison CD and came back, gave me the receipt and the change. And I looked at the manager. I said, can I stay now? And he said, yeah, no problem. And so I ended up setting up the table and hanging the posters for him, and I was front in line. And when they walked in, I was like, okay. And it wasn't like I wasn't starstruck, you know what I mean? I was more like, I was anxious. And so they sat down, I shook all their hands, and I looked at Scott and Scott Stapp, and I said, I was like, I just want to thank you. And I addressed all of them at the same time, you know, but I mostly was focused on the lyrics and the voice. And I said, thank you. I said, my mom died, and you don't know what you did for me. You guys saved my life, and I just want to thank you. And I shook all their hands, and I started to walk away. And Scott goes, hey, James, do you want us to sign something? And I look back, and everybody's looking at me, and I'm like, I mean, the whole line's looking at me like, this guy didn't even sign anything. And I was like, yeah, yeah. So the girl behind us gave me a notebook piece of paper, and I gave it to Creed, and they all signed it. And I remember, Scott saying, "You're coming to the show, right?" And I was like, "Dude, I'm gonna be front row if I can." And we got to the graffiti club, and I was front row, just like I said. And it was almost as if that whole show was just for me. And it was like everything was coming in my direction, everything. And I wish I could get a clear video of that show. It's not like it is now where you just get a video of every show. We didn't have iPhones back then, this is 98, But ironically, I never told Scott what the song was that saved my life. And as the concert went on, man, I mean, it is rocking. At one point, he doused himself with a bottle of water and just stopped, looked at me, and just poured the water on me. And normally I'd probably be pissed off, but there was just something about it, man. I need that cool, because I never took off my coat, my jacket, because I didn't know where to put it. So I was hot. I was caged in with a bunch of people, but I was enjoying myself. It was probably the best experience of my life. Well, when they got to What's This Life For, I was like, this is it. This is the song. It was our encore, And Scott had walked up and he grabbed my hand in the crowd, and the mic was between both of us. And just at that second verse, "I see your soul, it's kind of gray," we was singing that together. And they did this thing where they paused the song and let the crowd get into it a little bit. And I remember Scott pointing at me saying, "Remember this." And it went on. And then right after that song, he reached in the crowd and he slapped my hand, and then something, he gripped my hand, and I was like, "Yeah." And I looked down and I opened my hand, and it was his ring. I still got to this day. And I was, wow, you know what I mean? It was just like that moment transcended everything for me. And it was funny because there was a band up there. I want to say their name was Moist. They was opening, and I was like, man, I could probably do so much better than this band. I didn't like that band at all. But then Fuel opened up, and then it was Creed. And I remember thinking the whole time, like I'm looking at the stage, and I'm watching how everything worked, and I was like, I can do this, and I'm going to do this one day. And it was that moment in time when I got that ring, I knew I got to get this done. You are long-winded. I mean, you are long-winded. You talk a lot. Anyway, so let's fast forward, okay, because we don't have a lot of time on the video. So let's fast forward to the fact that in 2005, you have decided, okay, this is it. This is what you're going to do. You're going to start a band, and you did. Tell us briefly, as much as you can, actually, but tell us about how that all came about, and let's just go ahead and talk about Dissension. Let's try to wrap 14 years up in a few seconds, and let's tell the people about what that whole process was, about getting on that stage and creating this music and just being on that stage with that band for 14 years. Walk us through that experience. Yeah, well, in 2005, as you said, I had been real sick, and my brain was having some issues, and I was dropping out, and this, that, and the other, and doctors were telling me that it was pretty bad, and me and my father went to an appointment one time, and this guy's telling me, like, get your affairs in order, this, that, and the other. And so it was a real emotional day for me and my dad. Well, the next day, my father had said to me that day after the appointment, you gotta live like you're dying, son, and you gotta not worry about other people because you look healthy, so don't worry about what people say. You have to have thick skin and do what it is you want to do in life. And I'll never forget that. And so the next day I'm at work and I'm losing my mind. I got all these things rushing through, and I was telemarketing at the time, and I just having one of those days where every call people were just bitching at me, and I just threw off my headset and shut off the box, and I just leaned back in my chair and I was like, man, I gotta start a band. And then Jeff Tones was one person over, and he's like, "Hey man, I play the drums." And then the guy sitting next to us was a guy named I forget his name. Perry was Joe Perry. Sorry about that, Joe, if you're watching. Joe Perry was like, "Well, I play guitar," and I was like, "Well, let's do this." And there was a jam night later that night, so I set up a thing to get us up there so I could see what they had. And let's just say Joe Perry was a great guitar player, but because of his personal life, we didn't associate with him after that day. With Jeff, it was me and Jeff. So then we went on search for a guitar player. And I remember working with this other dude in another company called Rich Scheider, actually. And I remember he was learning how to play while we was learning how to put a band together. So I went to him, and I got him and my buddy Matt McClevins from high school on the bass. And one day after practice, we was talking about needing another guitar player, and I went to Rich's house after practice, and he introduced me to this guy walking in, wearing a garbage bag of all things. He was jogging, and this young guy was named Brian Davies, and he played, and I'm like, "Dude, you want to join a band?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And that first adaptation of Dissension, which we was called Transparent, but when Brian entered, he didn't like the name, and so I got a dictionary out and tell me to stop, and it was descend, and tell me to stop, it was descend, tell me to stop, it was descend again. I'm like, well, it's going to be descend, but it can't be descend, and that's it. So I added the SION on the back of it, and it was dissension, meaning to fall. And it was pretty much a made-up word. Everybody's like, you spelled that wrong? Yes, I do. It was on purpose. This is the very first dissension practice. We wrote a song called Questions. And it was Brian Davies came up with this, riff, and I put these lyrics over top of it like that. And it was like, okay, this is gonna work. And I told these guys, I said, dude, we're going to open up for Fuel and Creed in Scott Stapp, actually, I said, because Scott had just been starting to go solo. I said, we're going to open up for Fuel and Scott Stapp. And everybody laughed at me. They're like, there's no way. I was like, okay, but we're going to write our music, and we're going to make a difference, and we're going to get on that stage with Fuel and Stapp. You watch and see. We got a bass player by the name of Tom Smith, and that's when we really took a hold. We did a battle of the bands. We won the battle of the bands, and we got tied up with Drusky Entertainment, and we was off to the races. We had got in the studio and started Shades of Existence, and that first time in a real studio broke us. It broke me and Jeff Tomes, really, and we were the strongest of the two relationship wise. But that relationship broke us, and he wanted to move on to another, different things, and I at the time was not worried about it. So we went through some more changes, got a couple more drummers, this, that, and the other. When we did some great shows, and the lineup that really made it all happen for us was me, Brian Davies, Gary Stewart, and Aaron Glosser. There was just something about the four of us that really clicked. And it was at that point where, Dissension had already opened up for Fuel. So that part of my prophecy was fulfilled. But we had gotten the Buck Cherry show, and at the same time we was advertising for Buck Cherry, Scott Stapp was coming to Pittsburgh, and it was a Drusky Entertainment show. And so I immediately went on a campaign, man. I said, I really want that show. And the morning of the Buck Cherry show, the morning that I was waking up in the morning, and when I woke up, it was time to go get ready for the show. And I got a text message from Jacqueline Stapp, and she says, "Congratulations, you've been confirmed." And so I got to go on stage and open up for Buck Cherry, and then give the announcement that we were opening up for Scott Stapp, and it was so hard to keep it a secret. And then, but the crowd went crazy, and especially all the supporters that knew that was my main goal. And so we did, and there were some technical difficulties with the sound of that show for us, but the greatest thing was it was the day before my father's birthday. My father was in the crowd. Everybody that pretty much knew me was in that crowd, and I look over to my stage right, and I'm in the middle of performing, and there's Scott just smiling, looking through a curtain. And there's actually a picture of me sitting there like that, and I'm pointing to Scott because I was like, it just blew my mind. I looked over, it was just like I had imagined it. But that was like probably the greatest time of my life, the greatest moment of my life. But we kept going, and Gary left the band for work and so forth, and we did the In Plain Sight video. And when we did the In Plain Sight video, the next day we had a new drummer. And so Gary did the In Plain Sight video for us with us, and then the next day we introduced Brock Berkheimer, and that's when a connection between me and the drummer has happened. You know, me and Brock connected immediately. I wouldn't say immediately, like a couple months went by, but once that connection between Brock Berkheimer and I connected, I had something that I haven't seen since Jeff Tones was in the band, and it was great. And then you know, so it was now me, Brock, Brian, and Aaron, and we did you know, two more staff shows. We did the last Drusky show we ever did at that point was the Art of Anarchy with Scott. And so Brock got the chance to open up for Scott twice, and then you know, it just got to the point at the last 2 years of that band that there was tragedy. There was so much of negativity floating around. Aaron had gotten a new job to where he's traveling all the time, so getting practice together and getting him to be able to be at practice, and still he has family time and this, that, and the other, so that was a problem. And then Brian, he just kind of gave up his he didn't want to do it no more. You could just see it was like every practice was a chore. I couldn't get anybody to write a song. From 2016 until present, the Ascension did not write any songs. And then August of 2018, my godson, Dylan, had passed away. He was murdered by 3 of his friends. And from that point on, I started going to a downward spiral. And we had some obligations that I had promised to do, the Rock of Life tour, the child abuse. We'd done a child abuse concert in July of 18, about a week before Dylan was murdered. And I had promised we'd do a Rock for Life for this kid that was doing cancer. And so we had an obligation to do that show. And then I had promised my buddy Terry Davis, actually, that I would help him do his event for anti-drug addiction. So we had that obligation. So that was on June 1st. So we did all of our obligated things, and on June 2nd, I made the video, and I said, you know, and it was an emotional video, mind you. I gotten all worked up in my heart and thoughts of the memories and everything we achieved and all the work that we did for 14 years, and I say goodbye to Dissension for the last. Now it's getting pretty long, so we got to cut this short a little bit. But now Dissension's over. You broke the news to everybody, and now you're on a new adventure. You are coming back. You're having a new beginning, if you will, with the band Keller. Walk us through that process and tell us what's happening. And also, while you're talking, because you're long-winded, tell us, you've been doing some interviews. You're going to local businesses and and local people that's accomplishing things, and you're interviewing them. And what brought that about too? I like you to answer that as well. Why do the interviews on YouTube and so forth? What is the purpose? Oh yeah. Well, it wasn't. It was about a couple months after I made the announcement of dissension that I was done. And throughout the process of dissension, like when Brian Davies would need a break and he would step away from the band, I was still trying to get going, So I would always toy with the idea of just starting a new band called Keller and going solo. And I said it to TJ McDivitt a few times, and I had said it to Brock Berkheimer on one of the times and I believe I said it there in Gloucester as well. So after dissension was over, I remember I did the video and the announcement of dissension being over. TJ McDivitt, I didn't mention him in that video, and I got a hold of him immediately and said, "Dude, I'm so sorry, I forgot to mention your name," because he was a rhythm player for dissension for a while, and he was like, "It's okay, man. It wasn't meant to be over. We're gonna do Keller." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, man. We're gonna do that Keller project that we talked about." And then Brock and I was talking about doing Keller. This project was to step away from everything dissension was, and with dissension I was so driven to work. Everything was so serious all the time, and so I thought this is a chance to show people that I am more than what I've shown them. And because you play the same band for 14 years, you kind of get put in a box, you know what I mean? And it's hard to change. And so when Brock and TJ was talking to me about doing Keller, I was like, yeah, man, like the idea of doing change, doing something different just grew. And then I started noticing that my passion for the stage was coming back, and people were emailing me saying, man, you got to get back on stage. You got to get back to it. They was really worried about me. And so I said, okay, let's give it a shot. I had told Brock, I said, you got to contact Chad Graham, and because they're best friends. They've been best friends for a long time. And Chad's first band, like out in public on stage, was with my former drummer and a brother of mine, Jeff Tones. So I had seen Chad play on stage. My cousin Joe was the front man. My buddy Guido was their guitarist. They was in a band called Still Searching. And I just always remember every time I saw Still Searching, I was focused on Chad Graham. There was just something about that guy that my attention went to. So I said, Brock, you got to call Chad. And Brock was like, yeah, he's my best friend, man. I don't want to intertwine the music and the friendship. I was like, dude, just invite him. Oh, I said, the first thing we got to do is, I got these lyrics that I really want to put together for my godson Dylan, who had been murdered. And so the first song we wrote was Amen. And then the second song we wrote was Fate. From there, it was like, we just started writing. I mean, in the course of, I hadn't wrote a song since 2016. And now in the course of the past 4 months, we've written 7 songs, almost 8 or 9, but we got a couple started that we didn't touch back. And one day, this show came across my email, and I looked at the guys and I said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And they said, "Yeah." And so now we're going to debut on May 17th of 2020 with Puddle Mud. And very much looking forward to it, because the audience is going to see a different side of me, and I'm very much looking forward to it. It's like a brand new beginning. As for the interviews, and as everybody knows that a lot of people say I'm all ego and I'm all about myself, and this interview right here is not helping that rumor mill at all. but the interviews. I want to help my friends. I want to help the people in my town. I did the first one with my buddy Mike Vierman for Mountain State Tattooing, and I wanted people to see that, this is who this guy is and not what people think of him. Rumors have a terrible way of destroying reputations, and Mike started getting something done because of other people, and I was like, I can't sit by and not do anything. So I reached out to Mike, and that's when it all started. Then we did Vanessa Roberts Beaver with Vanessa's Sweet Temptations pastry shop, and that was just so much fun because Vanessa's such a loving person, and I just wanted to help her out a little bit. And then the interview that I've been waiting for, that I've been trying to for weeks, for months even. I've been watching this kid, man, this 15-year-old kid break Guinness Book of World Records, and I just do these crazy shots on a pool table, these trick shots and everything. And I was like, man, I'm so supportive of Theo Mihalis, the blood shark. So when I got the chance to, I contacted his dad. I said, asked Theo if, he'd mind if I did this, and he said absolutely. And we've been talking back and forth, Theo and I, for about a year, talking about, man, I got to do something with you. So when I got the chance to interview Theo, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. I hope I do more interviews like that. And then I have a lifelong friend named Jessica Doak Hall. Jessica Hall Doak. And she put all of her passion into the vape industry, and she opened her own vape shop, and I seen her online arguing a lot about this, that, and the other, and I wanted to give her a time to explain the things that people are misinformed about. And so I wanted to elevate that shot, and that was a great interview as well. I find that my cat just scared the living hell out of me. I find that by doing these interviews and being able to put the spotlight on other people, it truly opens the door for not only for other people to be able to help them be successful, but also for what's up, mate? But also for the connection of friendship. For me to reconnect with some people that I might not have been connected with for a little while. What my mission in life now is just to simply connect and to simply let people know the true James Keller, and try to connect with as many people as possible, because life is so short. Now I do have a goal though, I do want to get a tour going for Keller. I want to do that. And also I want to get on that stage with Scott Stapp one more time, because it was one thing to have dissension in Scott Stapp. That was one thing that, whatever, but to have Keller, for the first time, I'm doing everything underneath my own name, and to have Keller and Stapp on the same stage, that's remarkable. And with the change of the band from Dissension to Keller, I've been able to change some things that I've been wanting to change for years. And so the show is going to be so much more. You have to come and see it, man. I'll see you on May 17th. But yeah, that's where I stand, man.